Okay, let's dive into something that on the surface seems, well, totally counterintuitive.
Mm,
But trust me, it might be one of the most practical and sanity-saving things we can talk about.
what's that?
It's this idea that facing the absolute brevity of your life can actually make you better at living it. Right now, we're going to enter the world of the writer Oliver Burkeman.
Right. And he's a figure who has just fundamentally upended the whole time management genre.
Totally. Not with a new hack or a new app, but by forcing us all to just, face mortality head on.
What's so fascinating is that he's not just selling philosophy. He's providing a kind of rehab for a modern sick. I mean, you, the listener, are probably caught in this cycle.
This relentless, exhausting cycle.
Exactly. This obsession with achieving what we could call super productivity.
Mhm.
It's all fueled by this nagging belief that if you just find the right system, the right routine.
You can finally get on top of everything.
Yes. And it's a promise that could never be fulfilled.
And that's the painful paradox, isn't it? That very obsession with total mastery is exactly what makes us feel like the world is constantly spinning just a little bit out of our control.
Precisely. That feeling of always being behind, of never quite catching up, it's universal in the modern professional world.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear.
Good.
We want to extract the core philosophy that he calls imperfectionism. We'll be looking mainly at his big works, 4,000 Weeks.
Which, yes, is about the average human lifespan.
And the newer companion book, Meditations for Mortals. We want to see how embracing our limits, our non-negotiable limits, can ease these deep anxieties that, well, you might not even know you have.
So, to lay the foundation, we have to start with the central premise of 4,000 Weeks. And it is. It's devastatingly simple.
It really is.
He just strips away all the productivity noise and says, look, the core problem isn't time management. The actual deep problem is facing the reality that you, a finite human being, will never get everything done.
You will fail to do most of the things you want to do.
Yeah.
When you really let that sink in, it's incredibly confrontational. It hits you right in the gut.
It does.
And this is where his worldview becomes so important. He defines existence itself as this continuous struggle against universal forces. He says life is basically waiting against entropy until you die.
And let's just pause on that word entropy, because he doesn't just mean it in like a physics lab kind of way.
No.
He means your email inbox, your kitchen counters, the weeds in your garden, your own energy level. All of it naturally decays towards chaos. That is the universal force we are all fighting all the time just to keep things in order.
Right. And if you accept that definition, that life is a battle against everything falling apart, then the conclusion is just unavoidable. There will never be a point when everything is done. You'll never get to inbox 0 for good. You'll never finish the reading list. Accepting that lack of ultimate control, that's the first step.
And that leads right into the core mental image that can really shift your perspective.
The river analogy, that clicked for me the second I read it.
Instead of seeing time as this, relentless torrent that you have to fight against, just struggling to stay afloat.
Which is how most of us see it, right? A torrent where if you stop fighting for 1 second, you get swept away.
Exactly. He tells us to stop fighting and instead see time as a river that you're simply kayaking down. The river is still moving, but your posture has changed. You've gone from struggle against the flow to a purposeful movement with it.
That shift from struggling to navigating, that's what eases the anxiety.
The key.
But, I can hear a listener right now getting a little skeptical. They might be thinking, okay, but this just sounds like some really intellectualized self-help. Is Burkeman just making this all up?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the sources are clear. He is not just inventing concepts from scratch. He's a really skilled synthesizer.
Okay.
His genius is in taking ancient wisdom, Stoicism from the West, Buddhist concepts from the East, and translating it directly into the language of modern burnout. He's applying millennia of thinking to your Tuesday morning to-do list.
Okay, so let's unpack his solution to this, which he calls imperfectionism. This is the core of the second book, Meditations for Mortals.
Right, and it's all about encouraging us to embrace our non-negotiable limitations, not as failures, but as the raw material of a meaningful life.
So it rejects that whole premise sold by the productivity gurus.
It directly rejects it, the idea that life can be totally mastered or that we're somehow like half-formed until we get on top of everything.
Yeah.
He says that's the delusion.
He argues that floundering and messing up is living.
It is living. If you're waiting until you have total control to really begin your life, you'll be waiting forever.
I have to push back a little here, though, because this sounds really appealing, but how do we not just confuse imperfectionism with just giving up on ambition. Isn't it just a fancy excuse for being lazy?
And that is the most important nuance to get. It's not about giving up effort. It's about giving up the delusion of total control. Lazy people don't read these books. They already know they can't get things done. He's speaking to the overachievers, the people burning out because they're trying to fit 10 gallons of ambition into a 5-gallon bucket at a time.
So it's more like a strategic retreat, not a total surrender.
Exactly. He's balancing this tension between wanting more time and, the urge to just go live in a cabin in the woods. His conclusion is just practical. You won't get to do most things you want to do, period.
So the skill to learn isn't efficiency, it's selection.
Yes, the essential life skill becomes consciously choosing what to neglect, and that choice is the new freedom.
That's a powerful idea.
So now we can move from the high-level philosophy to the really practical shifts. I mean, it's easy to talk about entropy, but what does this look like day to day?
Let's start with Nugget 1, which tackles the tyranny of the reading list, because let's be honest, if you're listening to this deep dive, you probably have a long one.
Oh, the teetering pile of unread books.
Yeah.
Or the endless digital backlog.
Yeah.
It represents this pressure, right? This fear you're missing out on some key piece of wisdom.
And we all approach it with what he calls the bucket mentality.
Yes, we see the list as a slowly filling bucket that we have to empty. It assumes that if you just read faster, you'd eventually conquer it and reach, intellectual completion.
But the books just keep coming.
Of course they do. So Burkeman says to reframe it. The reading list isn't a bucket. It's a vast, endless stream that flows past you.
A stream. I like that.
And you just select a few choice items from that stream, and you read them with your full attention, and you feel zero guilt about letting all the other thousands of books just float by.
That's instantly liberating. It turns reading from a chore back into a choice.
It changes your relationship with knowledge itself.
Okay, so if we've accepted the chaos of the reading list, what about the workday? Let's move to Nugget 2, the capacity to stop.
This is a direct shot at hustle culture, at the idea that you have to always be on. Burkeman points out that these, historically prolific authors, Dickens, Trollope, they often only work for about 4 hours a day.
Which is shocking. You assume they were just chained to a desk for 18 hours, fueled by genius.
But the truly valuable skill they had, and the one we need to cultivate, is the capacity to just stop, to recuperate, even with that discomfort of knowing that work is still unfinished.
Most of us push through that discomfort, and that's where the burnout comes from.
Exactly. Learning to stop, to pick a point and stick to it, that is a high-value productive skill. It preserves you for the next day.
It's about forcing a boundary. Okay, what about Nugget 3? This one might be the most relatable. Scruffy hospitality.
Ah, yes. This is for anyone who panics before having people over.
Which is everyone, myself included.
Scruffy hospitality is about the freedom that comes from not putting on a front. It means no more frantic tidying for hours just to project this image of effortless domestic perfection.
I can relate so hard. I mean, my partner and I spent an hour last week arguing about whether we had time to alphabetize the spices before my in-laws came over. It was totally exhausting.
That is the perfect anecdote.
Yeah.
It's exactly the tyranny he's talking about. The goal of hosting is connection, not proving you could win a home organization award.
And he uses that great quote from Mary Randolph Carter, "A perfectly kept house is the sign of a misspent life."
Just embrace the mess. Your friends are there to see you, not your immaculate baseboards.
Okay, so we've covered the philosophy and some practical ideas, but we have to address the core anxiety here. The fear that all of this talk about limits and mortality will just make you, the listener, feel more depressed.
Right, like you're already failing at not doing enough.
Yeah.
He anticipates this. He actually tackles the anxiety of trying to be too in the present. There's this new pressure, this moral imperative almost, to be perfectly mindful all the time.
Which is just another thing to fail at, right? Another item on the to-do list.
Master mindfulness.
Precisely. And he says putting that kind of pressure on yourself just makes it harder to achieve. So instead, he helps by just naming the background anxieties that haunt high achievers. The fear of never amounting to much, the fear of running out of time. So by acknowledging them, they become external concepts, not just this crushing internal weight.
Exactly. Once you can see them and name them, you can stop fighting them. And that's paradoxically far more relaxing than the fight for a quick fix.
It's a really profound move. So now that we have all that, it helps to just contrast the two books one last time, because they really do serve different roles.
Yeah, that's a good idea. 4,000 Weeks is the intellectual foundation. It's the big, sweeping theory, gives you the why.
And Meditations for Mortals is the experiential extension. It's designed almost like a 28-day retreat for your mind to put the ideas into practice. It gives you the how to feel.
A great example is cosmic insignificance therapy.
I love that phrase.
In 4,000 Weeks, he introduces it intellectually. He tells you, stop trying to be so exceptional. Embrace your smallness. Stop trying to make some huge, permanent dent in the universe.
And this is such a relief for the high achiever because that pressure to be exceptional is just exhausting.
And then Meditations for Mortals takes that same idea and it walks you through the feeling of being that one tiny point in time. That shift from knowing the idea to actually experiencing it emotionally. That's where the liberation really happens.
So across both books, the message is really coherent. Time isn't a resource to conquer. It's a mystery to inhabit. And the call to live fully only comes after you embrace your limits, not when you deny them.
Exactly. So Burkeman, who calls himself a self-help skeptic, is actually offering this profound path to a, as he puts it, saner, freer, and more enchantment-filled life. And he does it by rejecting mastery and embracing the mess.
He really challenges that high-achieving mindset. He uses that incredible quote from the entrepreneur Andrew Wilkinson,
Oh, that's a great one.
who said that most highly successful people are just a walking anxiety disorder harnessed for productivity.
And that is the core pathology he's trying to cure. Berkman is offering rehab for those burned-out high achievers. He offers a way to disconnect your anxiety from your output.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If life is defined by these non-negotiable limits and we have to make these hard choices about where to focus our brief time, here's the final thought for you to mull over.
Okay.
What is one major thing or goal that you feel compelled to pursue that generates huge anxiety, but that you could perhaps consciously choose to neglect instead? Just let that one thing float by and see what remains.